what's interesting, in that era, nobody made any money in football, but I'm the only one that works in the off season. And it was healthy and good because the reason people can get into pro football, pro basketball, pro baseball is they start young. And I think business the same way.
This is BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio with your host, Tyler Jorgenson.
Welcome out to BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio. I am your host, Tyler Jorgenson, and today we have somebody who is an absolute legend, whose name is synonymous with innovation, both on the football field and in the world of entrepreneurship. The first time I've had a Pro Football Hall of Famer on the show, and who is renowned for his dynamic quarterback style during his 18-year NFL career. But beyond the gridiron, our guest, Fran Tarkenton, has also channeled his relentless drive into entrepreneurship. He's founded over 20 successful companies, becoming a passionate advocate for small business development. Welcome out to the show, Fran Tarkenton.
Tyler, glad to be here.
So I love to dive right. We're going to go backwards and forwards through this interview a little bit, but I want to go early on in your life. When was that first moment that you realized you were an entrepreneur?
When I was 5 years old. I lived in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And I, on Saturday mornings, I took a little wagon to the Safeway grocery store, and everybody, that's how they shopped for groceries back then. They didn't drive a mile or half a mile. They walked to the grocery store, and I had a little wagon on Saturdays, and I would put the ladies' packages in my wagon, go a block or two, and they'd give me maybe 10 cents. I don't think they gave me as much as a quarter, but that's where it started.
Yep.
Then I had a paper route, and then I moved to Washington, D.C., and then I moved to Athens, Georgia, and I worked on chicken farms in the summertime, and I had jobs in all the off seasons. At 18 years old, playing for the going to the University of Georgia to play for the Bulldogs, I became the #1 salesperson insurance in the state of Georgia for a big, large insurance company based in Boston. Went to pro football, made $12,500 my first year in football. I was a star, right?
Yeah. And
I worked in the off season because I didn't make any money in the season. And I worked for a company in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I knocked on the doors of shipping clerks. And I want them to ship their goods from the Dakotas to Minnesota to Chicago and back. They paid me $600 a month. And so my life started early, as you can see, of being an entrepreneur. And I've always worked. My first salary in football was $12,500. So I worked in the off season. So I've worked all my life. What's interesting, in that era, nobody made any money in football, but I'm the only one that works in the off season. And it was healthy and good because the reason people can get into pro football, pro basketball, pro baseball is they start young. And I think business the same way. Not many athletes of my generation worked in the off season. Not many athletes of this generation works in the off season. Now, they do television, right? The Peyton boys do television. It's all related to what they did in sport. My whole thing, here I am 85 years old. I just had an hour-and-a-half meeting with one of my top guys. It's the most exciting time I've ever lived in. We can do more business-wise than ever, ever, ever. And we use technology, AI, all the marketing. How do you get people to look at your product or service? And it's fun. We do it well, and that's kind of my history.
Fran, I think that we might be related because I also started when I was 5 years old by selling things to the old ladies in the neighborhood. I also had a paper route. and my dad grew up on a chicken ranch. So I feel like we're long lost brothers.
Yeah, we got there, man.
Yeah. I love how you worked in the off season. You worked while you were a college athlete. It's so different today. And I think that although business has changed a lot, how has your leadership style evolved while resources and business have also changed?
That's a really good question. I, as a quarterback, playing 4 years in high school, and we won the state championship. I played 4 years at the University of Georgia. We won the SEC championship. I played 18 years in the National Football League, and I was totally involved in putting in our offense. Not only back in our day, nobody sent the plays in. Quarterbacks called the plays.
Right.
I did better than that. After my third or fourth year of calling plays, I put the passing game in. And so that just evolved. And during that time, I never chewed out a receiver who dropped the ball. I never chewed out anybody in the line that missed a block, and Deacon Jones or Merlin Olsen, since you're in LA, would hit on me. And that wasn't leadership to me. I spent all my time with my teammates. I spent more time with my offensive linemen than anybody else, because if they couldn't protect me, I couldn't throw it. And so leadership was important to me there. And I didn't want to be, the quarterback would make the most money. Even back then, we make the most money. But I'm a team guy.
Yeah.
I lived and died with my teammates, linemen, defensive players. That was my entire life during the football season. And we built that camaraderie that you've got to have and trust that you've got to have. But I found out as I move in business, you've got to have that in business. You've got to have great leadership in business. And you've got to talk to people. And you've got to listen to people. And so I've always done that. And it makes me smarter. It makes me more effective. And I'm more open to new ideas. So if I've got a way to do business today and tomorrow I find there's a better way, I'm there. I'm not stuck here.
That's a really powerful leadership style. One that I try to do my best with as well, is really staying connected to people, building that camaraderie, living in rapport. And I'm also not hypercritical, right? I don't want to attack people, break them down. They're probably already aware of the mistake they made.
Yeah.
Did you have a mentor or somebody who guided you into this? Where did you learn leadership?
I learned it from a lot of people. Let's start with quarterback play.
Okay.
When I was drafted by the Minnesota Vikings in 1961, the great quarterbacks of that era and the era before were Otto Graham for the Cleveland Browns. The great coaches were Lombardi and Tom Landry and Don Shula, and later on my own guy, Bud Grant. When I got into pro football at age 21, I went to see Sid Luckman, a Hall of Fame quarterback from the Chicago Bears. I spent 2 days with him. Tell me what you do and how you do it. In the 40s and 50s, there's a guy named Otto Graham. Maybe he was the Patrick Mahomes of today. And I spent hours and days with him to ask him the question, tell me how to play. Tell me how you do it. What's your secret? I've never had an original thought. It's all come from somebody else. And I look at the coaches I played for in pro football, the Landrys in the Pro Bowl, and Vince Lombardi, and Don Shula. These guys were all different. None of them were the same. They were tremendous coaches. And now the coaches today that are great coaches that I've gotten to know, they're all different. They have a different approach. Oh, they teach, blocking and tackling and passing and how you do all that stuff, but they were totally different. Nick Saban is a great friend of mine, pretty good coach. He's one of the greatest coaches ever been. Six or seven NCAA championships. And just about maybe 2 months ago, he's got a place down Jupiter, Florida. My wife and I go down to Palm Beach, and quarterbacks always pick up check, so I pick up his check. But I said to him what I've just said to you. All these great coaches, including him, are all different. And I said, what's that mean to you? He says, I understand that because we are all different, but we are authentic. We don't try to be somebody else. Nick Saban doesn't try to be Lombardi. Tom Landry doesn't try to be. Authenticity is what leadership really means, right? You got to be who you are and not try to be somebody else. Because if you try to be somebody else, you're not going to be authentic. And Saban understood that. And every coach that I've ever been around to ask that question, they all came with that type of answer. It's their own style. If you try to be somebody that you're not, you're a phony. And these guys aren't phony. They're the real deal.
Yeah. As you transitioned from your career in football into business, and you've had an illustrious career now in entrepreneurship, what is a major challenge or failure that you faced, and how did you overcome it?
I wasn't a real good loser. And I don't think any of us are.
No.
And if I missed a pass or I threw an interception, I thought I let my team down. It was preparation. And I found out early on, the more preparation you have, the less mistakes you'll make. And that is true. But I also understand that you can't live on your laurels. Just because you were good yesterday and you threw touchdown passes yesterday, or you had success with your business yesterday, if you're not pushing the envelope to get better, to get more efficient, to get smarter, then you die. And now we're going faster than we've ever gone in the history of life, right? Whether it be politics, whether it be business, and now we got AIs come in. And all of a sudden, AI is changing the world right before our eyes. And it's what it is. I watched the people went up outer space, come back to Florida yesterday. Unbelievable. How does this happen? They stayed up there, for 9 months? Supposed to stay for 9 days? Who builds the little thing that takes them up and brings them back to Earth? And the world is working and going so fast, and we're learning so fast. And we got technology to drive it. And we've got to never be satisfied with what we know today or how good we think we are today. Because if you do and you don't keep going forward, you'll get slapped right in the head.
I always like when somebody who's 85 can talk to us about staying future proof, right? And I think it speaks to your longevity of both your health and your success, in that you don't rest on your laurels, and you're a living example of this concept, because it's, especially in the age of AI, if you rest for a month, it's like you rested for 10 years. And there's a lot happening right now. What are you most excited about you mentioned how this is the most exciting part of business for you right now. What are you most excited about? I'm
excited that the opportunity to have success today in business and in life is better than it's ever been. one of my great mentors was Sam Walton, who started Walmart. And I did so much business with him. And he didn't have the technology that they have today. He was in a business that was dominated by Sears, Roebuck, and all the great stores that are out there. And he had the idea for Walmart, and nobody else would give him any money. And he started in Bentonville, Arkansas, and he started when he was 51 years old.
Wow.
He died when he was 72 years old. Without any technology, he had the biggest company in the world. He hired more people than anybody in the world, and he put a different way for a store like Penny's or J to be. And he was one of my mentors. Now, when I say mentor, he just sat down and let me give you how to do things. I went to maybe 50 store openings with him. I helped him bring products in and out of Walmart. I went to him in all kind of meetings with his employees and with customers, and I just watched him. And I listened to him. And we'd get back in the car and drive to the next store, and I'd pump him with questions. And he was a simple man, but a brilliant man, but he didn't think of himself as a brilliant man. And he built the biggest company in the history of the world that's still growing and prospering. Way after his death, he did it in 20 years. 20 years, 51 to 71, and then he died in 71.
Wow. I think there's a lot of lessons in that. And, for some people, if maybe they haven't hit the levels of success they want to have yet, no matter what stage of life they are, it's that you can do a lot with the days in front of you more than you can do with the days behind you. How do you navigate the tension between staying innovative, but also holding true to your traditional values?
I don't have any problem with that. My traditional values are my traditional values. And my traditional values include one thing: treat people with respect of all of them. I don't get in arguments. I don't try to talk anybody into anything. And people say, well, you're the greatest salesperson ever was. I don't sell. I partner with people. My partners have been IBM, back when IBM was the FANG stocks in one. And so I just want to be better. I don't have all the answers. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. How can I be better? Whenever I think I've got all the answers, I get knocked right in the head. And today is a tough day. But we have the opportunity, if we're not born into wealth, and we're not second or third generation, I've got opportunities today that a person's never had before. The opportunity to go out and build your own business or go work for a big company and make and do well is more available today than ever before. And you don't have to be a Harvard graduate to get that job or have that success. In fact, I might say that might be a holdback for me.
Yeah.
I just believe you got to be in the action, and you got to be able to take a punch, and you got to be able to get along with people, and you got to be the right kind of person and the right kind of leader, and you got to listen. And just yesterday, I was talking to one of the guys here, 42 years old, brilliant guy. I said, nah, I don't buy into that. Today, about 2 hours ago, I was back at it, asking more questions. I said, I got it. Forget what I said yesterday. This makes sense. It's really cool for me to be able to do that. It's not hard for me to say I was wrong. Help me out. How do we do it? How can we be more efficient in getting product to the market? So now what we do, I have a company that I bought a year ago that's been around for a few years that is the best digital marketing company I've ever seen. They have done, and I've used them a lot. And what Without marketing, you don't have a business. And back when I was growing up, the salesman knocked on the door of every little house, right? Or the used car salesman was on the lot telling you how great his car was. Today, that's archaic. I've got to have a more efficient way to tell my story to possible prospects that become customers than I've ever done before. And technology allows me to do that and put out to the world, here's who we are, here's what we do. If you have an interest, come talk to us. And I think that we're seeing a whole revolution of marketing. We have a better understanding of marketing. It's just not like a sales guy knocking on the door and he's going to give you the sales pitch of the lifetime that's going to convince you you should buy his product, and he really doesn't care whether you do or not, but he just wants to get your money. We're a little more savvy than that today. Yep. And so the opportunity to go out, and most people can't afford to advertise on television or have billboards out in the streets. But we have technology now that allows you to take your message and your story out to people that would be interested in hearing what you do to get you a prospect that turns into a customer. Better than ever before.
If you had to start over, let's say you woke up tomorrow and your entire portfolio was inaccessible and you were going to launch a new business, what do you think you'd do?
Never thought about it. I don't know. Because the things that I have done, you know, I had my insurance license at 18. I didn't know anything about insurance. I was going to college, and so somebody said, you ought to be in the insurance business. Makes sense. So I studied and passed my test, and made sense to me. It was good business. And I started, and I became Franklin Life Insurance Company's best producer in the state of Georgia when I was 18, 19, 20 years old. And back then, I had a guy named Walker Word who worked for Franklin Life Insurance Company based in Boston, and he was a regional manager. I said, Mr. Word, what in the world do I do to get a customer? He said, go to your warm market, son, your friends and family. So I went with my friends and family. And then I went from there. Thank God today we have better ways, more efficient ways, more civilized ways to go to market. But the one thing I have never done, I've never sold anybody anything. Here's what we do. Here's how we work. Can I answer any of your questions? Does it make sense to you? No, it doesn't make sense to me. I said, God bless you, that I can't help you. If it does make sense to you, we work. I don't believe in selling. I don't believe in selling. I don't believe in someone's arm. I believe in tell what we do, what our products are. Does it interest you or not? You like to go and see. And if they say yes, we go. If they say no, I say, God bless you.
Yeah. I agree. I think that's the right way to sell is I don't like the hard type of closing people and the entire mindset behind that. It's a good salesperson's job is to help somebody make the decision they wanted to make and which is just empower them with the right answers and the path forward, help them illuminate that next step. What, you've worked a lot in marketing and finance, and you work a lot with small businesses. What is one of the most common stumbling blocks for a small business owner that you've seen throughout generations?
That they can do it all by themselves. You know, they're hardworking people, and I can do it all by myself. I found out really quickly that if you're going to scale your business, you better have bigger partners. And so I bought a technology out of New York City 100 years ago, it seems, and they couldn't make it. But the guy was really smart. So I took over the company. He stayed with the company. And after 2 years, we weren't doing very well. We did about $100,000 a year, and we weren't making any money, and I was funding the whole thing. And finally, my chief technical officer, who was my only technical officer, I said, we need a partner. We need someone to help us get to market. He said, IBM would be the greatest partner ever. I said, this is like, IBM is before all the technology companies today are there. IBM was everything. And so I called the chairman of IBM, named John Akers, back in 1979, I think it was. And I said, I got this guy here. He tells me that we got something that IBM would really like and need, and da 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 da. And I said, I think he's stupid. That how could that be? I'm doing $100,000 a year in revenue, and you're doing $8 zillion. But with that humility, he set me up with his people. They came down here to see me here, and we built a company, and we formed a partnership, and we went from 100,000 a year, and 2 years later we were 120 million a year.
Holy moly!
But we had IBM, who was and today you got to have partners. I don't care where you are, how far. You need to have partners that you can bring some value to, that can help you go to market more efficiently.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of business owners think they can do it alone, and they think that it's a badge of honor that they're wearing every hat in the business, where it's the actual thing holding them back.
And that's true. That's unfortunate. And everyone I talked to, they talked to me. I said, I cannot do it alone. I cannot win football games alone.
Yeah, I
had great coaches, great players, and we got to work together. And now we've got what we haven't had before: technology that allows us to be able to be more efficient and go into market.
Now, Fran, on this show, I talk about entrepreneurship, but I also talk about how it should fuel the life that we want to have. And I know that you and your wife love to travel and do things. Yeah. What is something on your personal, not your business, but your personal bucket list you're going to do in the next 12 months?
Well, we've got a pretty good, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We just came in February. We go to St. Bart's for 2 weeks. We go down to Palm Beach. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, so we can get down there in an hour and 20 minutes. My wife is very wealthy. She's got me a Gulfstream jet, so I can go down there in an hour and 40 minutes. We go stay at the Breakers. It's like another family down. We stay down there 4 times a year, a week, 10 days each time. I go out to in California. I go out to Napa Valley every year for 2 weeks. I go to Pebble Beach for 2 weeks. I had a hole-in-one when I was 83 years old at Pebble Beach. And so we travel a lot, and I can connect to my business when I travel, just like I can talk to you in California and I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah. I can get on Zooms and Booms and this and do it. And I do, because I like to do this. Yeah. And so I'm not tardy or away from my workplace, which is my fun place.
Sure.
Because if I took all that time out and I didn't stay in touch, I'd be lost.
Yeah. What about somewhere new? Is there anywhere that you've never been that you still want to check out?
There's a place my wife is checking out in LA, as I was mentioning to you, and it's a 5-star resort there. I used to be all over LA. It's a little bit north of LA, and so I think we're going to do that maybe in August of this year. And go out there and see it. I haven't been to LA in years and years and years. So my wife is half Italian, greatest cook in the world, and she is she can decorate and do everything, and she puts the trips together, and off we go.
Well, I know that you said the quarterback always picks up the check, but next time you're in California, dinner's on me.
I would never let you pick up my check. I'll give you. Sam Walton, who I had a zillion lunches and dinners, I would never let him pick up the check. And I said, and the reason I'm not is I can brag to everybody else that I picked up every check I had with you.
That is true. The fact that that's fantastic. Absolutely loving all of that. I'm so grateful that you took the time to come on the show. I resonate with so much of what you've shared. I'm grateful that you so openly share your experience and your wisdom. And, just thank you so much. I'm grateful for it. And to all my biz ninjas, wherever you're listening, watching, or tuning in, it's your turn to go out and do something.